this is an award that could really go to no one more deserving than Norman LaForce. Norman is a fierce and fearless advocate for the East Bay Shoreline Park. He takes on everything and everyone, and he has done a magnificent job. And one of the things that hasn't been mentioned yet, you know, Norman has done so many things as chair of the San Francisco Bay chapter of the Sierra Club, of its East Bay Public Lands Committee, the Northern Alameda group of the Sierra Club, co-founder of CESP, his whole role as mayor of El Cerrito, advocating for the environment. But Norman did something without which, with everything else we've talked about, there would not be this park. And I want you to think back to 1983 and then up to 1986, Measure Q. The city of Berkeley was being sued by the developer of the, wanted to put in the shopping center, that its zoning was not correct. And we had to devise a zoning plan that could meet muster all the way up to the US Supreme Court, which is where it finally went. I was running for mayor at the time, and Norman and I walked over every inch of that park, every inch of the meadow, looking at the zoning, talking about it, so that I would be comfortable campaigning on being for Measure Q and against Measure P, which would have essentially acquiesced. And so, Norman, in many ways, you're the father of us all here today, because without, again, that vision, leadership, and putting your legal mind to work to get the right zoning plan, we would not have finally prevailed in the US Supreme Court, which is what we did, and the rest is history. And I know that you will be with us as we move forward, because this is a work in progress. We have a long way to go, but everybody, walk around the meadow today. This is a beautiful, beautiful place on the face of the earth, and we have saved it for our children and the generations beyond them. So Norman, the Sylvia McLaughlin Environmental Stewardship Award, please come up and get it.
But as everybody knows, Sylvia has a slightly different way of interacting with public officials than I do. However, I do know that at one point she did express her anger, and it was at some meeting, and one of the Santa Fe people said, "Well, this is our garbage dump. We can do what we want." And Sylvia piped up and said, "No, it's our garbage dump." And slightly elevated, more elevated voice than she usually does. And so a little while later, a few months later, when I met that same person, I said, "You do not realize how angry you made Sylvia McLaughlin, that they have no idea of just the slight rise in her voice, what anger she really expressed when she talked to me." But Sylvia was instrumental in helping get this park created, and I'm very honored to be given an award after her. But I do want to make sure, because she always reminded me of this, that it wasn't just her, it was Pastor Gulick and Tate Kerr, who were the founders and leaders of Save the Bay, and were equally instrumental in not only creating Save the Bay, but also in helping us while they were alive in creating the McLaughlin Eastshore State Park. And of course, Dwight Steele was a tremendous mentor to me and to other people, but I learned a lot from him. It's really a shame that he's no longer with us to enjoy this moment like the rest of us, because he was very important in getting this park created. Equally important, but really essential, as we've honored today, is Tom Bates and Lonnie and Nancy Skinner in the legislature, because while this park was something that was created by the people, it could not have been accomplished without people like Tom, Lonnie, and Nancy, and others in the legislature. And really, Tom was instrumental in making this happen at that level, because this is a state park, and it required state legislation. And if there was ever a reason why term limits is very stupid, it was when term limits forced Tom to leave office. Because it was his ability, being there so long, to be able to go toe-to-toe with the bureaucrats who were dragging their feet on this park that made it happen. And of course, equally important was the work of the East Bay Regional Park District. Because, as everybody knows, it is the premier park district in the country, certainly this region. If anybody was going to take on this park in a way that really needed to be taken on, it was going to be the East Bay Regional Park District. And it's to the credit of Pat O'Brien, Bob Doyle, and the others in the park district that they stepped up to the plate and they really worked hard to help us get this park created. So that's very important. None of the work I have ever done on this park could have been accomplished without that effort. And also, I have to say that it was, at times, the developers really helped us. They were very instrumental. And one of the best examples of that, as I recall, was in 1985, when we're in the midst of a big battle over what to do with the Berkeley shoreline and the meadow. Santa Fe, somehow they got the great idea from somebody to come in and to bulldoze the meadow flat.
Right.
And if there was ever any action that galvanized people, that enabled us to just whip up the community, it was that action by what they did, because it demonstrated their arrogance as to what they wanted to do with this land. And equally important was the weather that later year, in 1986, because we did have a lot of rain. Hopefully we'll get a lot of rain this year. And because of Santa Fe's bulldozing operation, they helped create a lot of seasonal wetlands, which then came back to haunt them when we looked at what to do with this property. So I really thank Santa Fe for doing that. My work on this could never have been accomplished, of course, without all the work of the many people who came out to meetings and worked in the community in doing this. And I do have to give a little pitch here. As people know, I wrote a history some years ago about the effort to create the now McLaughlin Eastshore State Park. It's on sale for people to get, and all the proceeds go to CESP. So I'm not embarrassed in being a shill for the book at this point. And I did try to explain, at least from my perspective and what I could glean from all the people I interviewed, how we got this park created, but also, more importantly, to try to identify all the people who really worked so hard in their individual communities and at different times to make this park happen. And really, this park would not have been accomplished without all the work of all the people who are now, most of them, I hope, and if not all of them, are going to be on the honor roll that'll be at the park, because they really were the ones who made this park happen. We counted on them to be at the meetings. We counted on them to give us the money. We counted on them to be able to go door to door when we had to campaign, particularly when we had to deal with Mr. Caruso and his leisure center in Albany, and his Keystone Cop trolley car operation. And that was so important. So I really want to thank all of you and all the people who are not here for all your work in making this happen, because whatever I did could not have been accomplished without them. Thank you.